Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in this April monthly event of the Coworking Europe conference. The pandemic is still around, but we hope we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's time now to hear about personal stories, how we went through that terrible time everywhere. How Coworking has been through that, and who better than Claire Carpenter, who has been one of our veterans in the coworking industry. Claire is based in Edinburgh, has been the founder of the Melting Pot, and yeah, it has been a pretty hard roller coaster to you, but the good news is that you are about to reopen, not where you used to be, but to reopen, and the idea is definitely to discuss about that with you this morning, if it's okay for you. But first of all, Claire, remind us who you are and what you do.
Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you. My name's Claire Carpenter. I'm the founder of the Melting Pot, which is Scotland's Centre for Social Innovation. We're one of Europe's first co-working hubs. Our audience is social innovators, so people involved in social change, whether they're in startup, established, scaling up, whether they're self-employed, working for a non-profit, working for an SME. We had until last October been successfully trading from a venue in central Edinburgh for 13 years. We opened the venue in 2007, started the company in 2005, and closed our first premises at the end of October last year, so 2020, after 13 years of stable delivery. So yeah, last year was shit.
Yeah, indeed, we can figure it out. So you were one of the first independent co-working space, and you were a co-working space operating before we even heard about the word co-working. It was the case for us, a number of us. So just remind us, it was not a big space. I've been there. I was lucky enough to be invited by you a few years ago to visit the place. It was just right in the center of Edinburgh. It was quite of a crossroad. You were also very connected with the authorities and a lot of players in Scotland, and you still are. So they used also the Melting Pot to explain what co-working was about, and also to tell about the experience that you can get, also to roll out new co-working spaces more in rural areas in Scotland. So how important was the Melting Pot, and still is, from that perspective? Can you remind us also about it?
Was it a what, sorry, Jean-Yves?
How important was the Melting Pot from that perspective, as how to say, an example or a Scottish embodiment of what co-working could provide, but also the values that it was carrying outside, for the region, for the whole country, for the nation, we can say the nation. Yeah. Remind us a little bit, because it was significant.
Yeah, so I think, like many people who first created co-working hubs, the idea was very much about a resource space to resource people, whether they're entrepreneurs, our lot might be social entrepreneurs, social innovators, but it was very much about community development, entrepreneurial development, ecosystem support. You know, the workspace. This is us. We're live here, people. This is the buzzer.
It's good to hear. Yeah, people are coming on the door.
The buzzers are going. No, someone's here. They can answer the door. It's because we're about to. My team, who are fitting out the premises, we're still in the fitting out session. I'm going to answer the door.
Yeah, sure.
This is 9 o'clock Europe, my time, and the team are about to arrive to start their day's work. So but
it's good to hear, the bell ringing, it's after all those months. It's reconforting,
Yeah. So anyway, we'll go back to the question. I think that the Melting Pot embodies the values of co-working in terms of creating a place where people have a sense of belonging, nurturing talent, and being part of the placemaking agenda. So helping Edinburgh be a great place to come and to work. Excuse me.
Welcome.
Hello, Neil.
Hello.
One of our first members.
Hi there.
anyway, this is what it's like doing Blue Peter live. This is what happens with children and animals. People, the customers are returning. It's,
no, but I think that's a great message. It couldn't be better. Actually,
absolutely. And I'm in a weird room at the moment. The entrance to the building, the main entrance that will be, is locked off because it's a building site downstairs. So people are having to come up through this other way. So I'm sorry if that is disruptive.
Don't be sorry. It's good to see and hear. And so the melting pot, as you were saying, was indeed some an organization that was important. I can tell about it because I've been there. Yeah. You showed me. We have been in touch with for quite a while. And again, you are reopening in a new premises. That's the good news. But okay, how has been the journey since early last year for you?
Yeah.
What have you been through, and why did you close down at the end?
Yeah. Well, let's preface this by, in the last 7 years, I have tried numerous times to scale up in Edinburgh. But Edinburgh is one of Europe's leading capital cities. It's one of the most expensive places in the UK. And it's a small city, 500,000 people, but it's a very desirable place to be. There's a lot of external demands. So it's high in finance, high in tourism, high in university. And all of these factors are excellent when you've got a thriving economy dependent on, But when the pandemic hit, you know, the city has been devastated. It's emptied of people for work, for pleasure, in all sorts of ways to come here to study. And as a long-term resident of Edinburgh, actually, it's been a wonderful place to be for the last year. I've got to get out and about in this beautiful city and experience it in a way we never normally would. But it's also it's been a bit alarming as well, you know, in any place that's normally very populated by all sorts of people from all over the world. You know, it's scary. So we've tried to scale up numerous times over 7 years and been unable to do so. When the pandemic hit, we were told to go and work from home. We thought that might be for a few months. I imagined that might be longer than a few months, and I was correct there. But I don't think initially, when we first went underground, as it were, that we thought that it would be quite so long, and that, well, I don't know. Who's ever been in a global pandemic before? Nobody I know. So we're learning by doing. This is real-time experience. It's live, just like the webinar. We're working it out as we go along. So in the end of March, we closed up. We put our customers onto a virtual membership package where we created all sorts of community and learning events just to try and stay connected with people online. And that, you know, that's worked to a degree of success, but it has kept people engaged. In the summer of last year, we reopened our premises on the centre of Edinburgh, but, you know, like anywhere else, everybody by summer, after being locked in for a few months, everybody wanted to be out and about, going and seeing friends, doing things. Last thing they really wanted was to be going in. Summer is always our quietest time anyway. I'm sure it is for many operators. So going into the summer season, the slow season, when people have been stuck indoors, they wanted to get out and about. And I could clearly see that the viability of our model, which, as you say, Jean-Yves, it's a small space. I paid good rent, as in like high rent. So it wasn't going to work. And I could see ahead that we were highly likely to be going into another lockdown. Could be many, many, many months, could be the entire winter, that this could be happening on and off, on and off. So I just took the decision, you know, cut your losses. The important thing as an organization was to retain my knowledge, not my knowledge, my team's knowledge, to retain the people. And as much as that home had been a useful and viable home for us as an organization, and for our customers, people knew it, well, there's always going to be new buildings after a pandemic. There's going to be an enormous real estate shuffle. And as I said, we've wanted to scale up for many years, and we could see, we were doing research as well into the future of the office, future of work, And so doing deep market research to inform ourselves, well, what were people going to need when they come back to an office? Because the hybrid model, there was conversations about that within the industry. And yeah, it's like, what are people really going to want to need? What are they going to buy? What are we going to place? If we're going to get a loan, we're going to get grants, if we're going to invest in reopening, what is it that we're reopening? So we're confident from that research that people would come back to an office. They don't want to be working from home full time, or they can't work from home full time. And the audience here will understand all of those arguments. So I'm not going to spend time on that. So it was then, well, what are we creating? And as I said, we've always wanted to scale up. We've always had more demand than we could supply. So we went on the hunt, basically. We knew that we had to, A, close down our building, B, try and maintain our customers at a period where we've not got a building to service you in, where we can do some stuff online. The UK has implemented the furlough scheme. So we've been able through the entire year to have some staff working some of the time and some government support to maintain jobs. So we've just made a blend of really restricting our working hours, being hyper-focused in what we are trying to achieve. So the strategic goal of find a new viable building. That was the number one goal. Everything else was reduced down to a core.
And so you say you made a decision ahead before, because you saw what was coming up and the wall that was getting narrower. The cliff, yeah.
The cliff.
So before you turn the wheel and say, okay, let's stop the hemorrhage and the bleeding. And so what about the lease contract? Because I guess you had a landlord. So was it easy? Was it something you had to do, just stopping the company and restarting one? What did you do?
The situation we were in, there's a strange Scottish law that after the first 10 years of our lease, instead of we were on a 6-month notice period initially, and we had enough reserves for the 6 months notice period. But when, after we turned 10 years, neither myself, our organisation and our landlord didn't seem to know that there was this strange, weird legal thing in the Scots law, because they hadn't got a Scottish law lease. And it meant that we would take on an annual liability. Day by day by day, it would get reduced from 365 days all the way down. And so when the pandemic started and we worked from home, we very quickly got legal advice to try and bottom out, because both parties were under the impression that we were still having to give 6 months notice. But we double checked our information and found out that we had this annual liability. So when the pandemic started, we went to our landlord and said, look, there's no way we're going to take on this annual liability later on in the year. What can you do about this? And at that point, both parties thought we might all be shut for a few months, maybe 4 months. So the landlord offered us a 1-month break clause for during a 6-month period. So I knew that from the end of the summer into early this spring, we had a chance to get out quickly and relatively inexpensively if it was going to go tits up. Technical term, go to the wall. We could just give 1 month's notice. So in the summer, when I could see that this was playing out, like, oh my God, we still want to scale because we believe that co-working is going to come back big style, and more people, how much advertising has co-working had this year? Masses. People who never heard about co-working are suddenly thinking about co-working or flexi space or however you want to go there. Yeah. So we basically recognized we could get out of our lease for the cheapest price that we could ever do and make ourselves homeless and go hunting for a building at a time when there were buildings becoming available in Edinburgh like they've never been. So we saw that there was a window of opportunity to get out and get in somewhere during this last 6 months.
So Can we say that to some extent the circumstances made it possible for you to deliver on the scaling project that you were looking for with better terms that you would have had because you were stuck with your previous building. So I remember the premises was not big, and from the picture I see, I was feeling that the location is better than you had.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Everything is better about this building. Okay. Everything.
We can show. You send me some pictures, and we can share it here. And just 1 second. Here it is. So the first picture I saw, I thought you were in a fire station.
Yeah.
So it's close by the railway station, is it?
Yeah, it's right opposite one of the entrances to. There's 3 entrances to the main station in Edinburgh, and we were right opposite one. And our old premises were literally 5 minutes walk from the platforms, so it wasn't that the old premises were far away. But this is the work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah. What's wonderful about this space? We've got a great location. We've got 3 floors. Including the ground floor. So we've got shop front visibility at street level. So the basement, ground floor, and the top floor. That's me taking down the sign of our landlord, who will also be our customer and also be a business partner in this endeavour. So Foundation Scotland have, I can tell you more about them, but this is their building.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of managed contracts. Or is it a regular lease contract, or you manage to get the landlord involved in the project?
It's so both organisations are non-profit organisations whose mission is our mission is to stimulate and support social innovation. Our Foundation Scotland are a grant maker. They act as the conduit from philanthropists and grant-making trusts to community organisations and charities, etc., who require funding. So they distribute funding. So we've got an alignment of our mission and values, and ultimately in our customers. But we both provided very different services. And I knew this building. I actually helped Foundation Scotland 5 years ago when they bought it, looking at their design of their space. This was their company headquarters, and but it was too big for them, really. And I went to them. So maybe I'll step back. In the summer, we went out hunting for buildings. So throughout September, October, November, December, we went hunting for buildings in Edinburgh, and we were coming up with quite a few options. But there's a lot of people, a lot of building owners still holding on tight to the buildings, not making decisions, or there were when we were looking. We knew that we only had a certain amount of time in order to be able to recover the business. And we couldn't, for instance, I've had friends say, why can't you get a business loan? It's like, well, you can't get a business loan if you don't have the services that you can ultimately deliver. And to deliver services, we needed a building. So there's only so long that our savings are and we've got good savings, that would keep us alive for. So between the furlough scheme and the getting out of our previous lease in relatively easy terms, although there's obviously a big cost to leaving, there's also a cost to starting up that we didn't have in our budgets. So, but I approached Foundation Scotland. We was looking at a building across the street from here, and I looked over and I was like, I wonder what they're doing with their building. They don't seem to be in it. And I reached out to them and said, I've got a problem. You might have a problem. Maybe we could be a solution for each other. And that's really how the dance started. So on the one hand, we're looking at buildings that we knew were definitely available, were up for rent, and trying to negotiate, look at which options would work with there. And on the other hand, had identified that this would be a good long-term strategic relationship. An excellent, I knew the building as an excellent building, very, very well fitted out, great location. So could this be a much better option than going with a straightforward commercial just another commercial business relationship, becoming a tenant again.
Here you confirm this big trend we see in co-working now, that you don't need necessarily to lease directly under a traditional leasing contract and put on your shoulders the burden of and the financial risk that is associated with that. That now more and more we can be, and co-working operators can be service provider in partnership with the landlords, who on the other hand also is struggling with the fact that companies are not operating the way they used to do, and definitely look for more flexibility themselves, and tenants are not as ready as they used to be to just put a higher deposit and risk anything or everything once there is a downturn at some level, because a lot of companies or in restaurants and cafes, we know what will put them in the bankruptcy, and at the end of the day is the lease contract, most likely. You are demonstrating this big trend to some extent. Do you have this?
And there's a hybrid between all of that. Like we have, I won't give you the terms of the lease, but there's a balance between comfort, the landlord having comfort with income, and then the landlord having extra. If we do really well, they'll do very well. If we do good, they'll do good. If it's hard, it's hard. So. And
how do they make sure, according to you, that you work enough on being successful? Because at the end of the day, they become an investor in your company.
Absolutely.
So the team, the personality, the commitment becomes critical, super important.
Absolutely. So we have strategic relationships between the two organizations. Remember, this is more than just the building. Like the building is the first part of a collaboration between our two organizations. So one of the things the Melting Pot's done for the last 9 years is incubate social change initiatives. We've got education programs. We've also helped people create co-working hubs around the world and accelerate that trend through our co-working accelerator. And so getting this foundation stone back solid in the city centre for many social change organisations and individuals working social change in Scotland who are helping build back better is the number one thing that we need to do. And then there are other stages that we can go through. And both organisations are looking for how can we collaborate to strengthen our social impact across Scotland and across the world. So yes, we will create a fantastic scaled up co-working hub for social innovators here in this beautiful building. We're ripping it apart right now. I spoke with Giles yesterday, who's the CEO of Foundation Scotland, and gave him a virtual tour. I was like, oh, sorry, been cutting this up, taking that apart, pulling down that wall. He was very, very kind about it. Just said we've made great progress. But
you are funding yourself the fit out, or is it also a partnership that's...
There's a balance. So we've invested a lot of our reserves, obviously, in trying to get back and building. So we're investing our reserves in our people and our startup. We've taken on a loan. Because we're a charity, we've been able to take on some grant funding, which has been fantastic. And the landlord, as a landlord, is also investing in this reboot, because this will be our forever home. We make this work, it's big enough and the relationship with them is strong, it should be strong enough that this isn't a place that we need to leave. So when we scale from here, we'll be scaling into neighborhood hubs and continuing to help other people create hubs around the world. So, our network of, to scale our operations and our impact doesn't necessarily require that the Melting Pot has its name on lots of locations. We can do that in multiple ways, from working with organisations to help them deliver a co-working hub, to help them scale it up. There's different ways that we can play about with it, but you don't have to create a chain of buildings that you run yourself and own yourself to make impact and create co-working. So yeah, let's play around with it. What we know is people will want to work more locally to where they are, and how I've been saying this for years at Co-working Europe hubs. We've been talking about rural hubs and smaller towns, commuter towns, towns that need regenerating. And certainly in Scotland, the towns have done very well. It's the cities that have done badly with the pandemic, because the towns were the feeder zones for the cities where people could afford to live. Well, now people want to live and work in those smaller towns that surround the cities. So that's where there's going to be market opportunity.
We had a panel last month, maybe you have seen it, with the Irish, representative of the Irish government, because they are investing also 5 million euros to develop a network of hundreds of what they call rural hub, which are actually small co-working spaces. Is there the same scheme cooking now in Scotland, or is the approach similar from what you see? Because you have been involved also in this promotion of rural hubs.
Yeah, there is. So Scotland's got a whole local towns initiative, and 20-minute neighbourhoods is being talked about a lot. And strategically at government level, there's things that are being worked out, but it's not all fleshed out yet. There's they've been setting strategy, looking at the situation and setting strategy over these last 12 months. They're definitely interested in strengthening towns across Scotland and having a more distributed, just like we're talking about distributed workforce and distributed workplaces, the Scottish government on a distributed economy, so that there's not such a, obviously want the cities to remain strong, but actually it's a perfect opportunity to strengthen rural areas and towns to enable, let's spread the economy around, make Scotland a more equal and fair society. So
we are arriving at the end of this discussion. What about the pardon?
You want a quick tour of a work in progress?
Yes, quick if it's possible, but if it's not that as huge as you were saying.
I could just show you the first space on this floor.
please do. Sorry, yes, because we just have a few minutes left. But while touring, what about the community? Your historical community, because from what I understand, you could stay in the neighborhood, or at least in the downtown of Edinburgh. But was it okay for them to move to this new location? And or do you think you will lose some people? Yeah.
I'm just going to show you Waverley Station. There's the train.
Okay, that's the train.
I can hear the train. So our old location was literally a 5-minute walk that way. Okay. So it's really not very far. And then this is our first floor. So it will be our focus zone. And over the next week, we'll finish rebuilding things. We've had to repurpose and reuse the furniture that was here within the building. So that's what's going on. And then downstairs so this will be lots of workstations, different sizes, spaces. And downstairs will be it's the commons, meeting rooms, kitchen, and the basement will be various meeting rooms. Okay. So our community I think we've had one person say that it's a little bit too far for them. It's like, it's really? 5 minutes walk. It's a 5-minute walk from where we were.
Okay. Yeah. And I knew about what you said, that the city could become less attractive and that it used to be, and that it could also impact your attractiveness and lower the business potential of the location.
I think that there will be some change in how often people come to Edinburgh and what they come to Edinburgh for, but I genuinely believe that we will have enhanced business overall. It's going to be a bit rocky I think until the autumn. But I know for myself, one thing I want to say to the other co-working operators, this last week, being in the physical space, rebuilding, being with my team and other colleagues or other people who are coming in to help build, it's been a brilliant experience. It's been so positive. It's really shifted my mindset. The last 7 months of sheer grunt at a computer, the isolation of working from home, the winter, the lockdown, that's been really hard on me and my team. It's really, it's distressing in a way that I think you don't really realize because you're coping with it until you start to come out of it. And we're coming out of it now. And I know from this last week of being together with people, people need people. It's really straightforward. Co-working hubs are not about the Wi-Fi and the coffee. We know that that's important. It's about the people and the relationships and the interactions. And last week and this week, I've been seeing that from people who've been starved of company beyond either their flatmate or the people that they live with or that they don't live with, that there's nobody there. And I am convinced that people will come back to great co-working hubs where people are put first, relationships are put first, coffee and the Wi-Fi work. People will come back, guaranteed.
Everything will taste better.
Yeah,
it seems.
Yeah, we'll get it better.
You can even afford to provide with bad coffee now. People will enjoy it.
Yeah, you can, because it goes back to what it was always all about. It's about the people, the relationships, what you can do together. Just last week, being able to sit with my colleague over a bit of paper and try and work out the furniture Tetris that we've got going on. There is no way we could have done that on Zoom. It would have been an utter nightmare. We were 3 days at it. You know, people need people, and that some of it can be done by Zoom. Doing this, brilliant. I love the fact that maybe I won't have to spend so much time in international airports traveling around the world. I can do a lot more of this stuff virtually, but there is other things that it is just, you can do it so much better when you're actually in the room with people, whatever type of room it is, however good or bad the coffee is, you know. Perfect. Get people back in a room together, do it. It's brilliant.
Awesome, Claire. Always, as always, much inspiration. Thank you so much for the energy and the bounce back. And I think it's very important also to re-energize all the co-working operators. So there was the light is definitely there, and maybe we'll for the better. And as we said, everything will taste better from now on. So that's great.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Just do it. Trust that people will come back. They will. More people are interested in co-working than were ever interested before, but make it around the people and what you can do in the space. I'm loving making the space. That's wonderful. But actually, it's what happens after. It's what happens after you have the baby. It's having the family, growing the family, having a good family life. Sure. It's the same thing. Sure. It's really, really lovely to see you and speak to you. And hi to everybody.
Likewise.
Good luck with your journeys out there. Good luck
and I can't wait to visit your new location in Edinburgh.
Do it. Do it. Come and join me. We'll have good coffee.
Oh, yeah. Don't bother. Okay. Thanks a lot, Claire. Thank you so much. We hope to see you in real life as soon as we can, definitely. And thank you again for the great story. And I hope that you are delivering and sharing with us. Thanks to that. Thanks a lot.
Take
Bye-bye,
care.
Claire.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.